Welcome to the System Simplified podcast, where we feature top leaders who share stories on how to successfully systemize a business. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello, Klevit here, the host of the System Simplified podcast, where I feature top founders, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders about systematizing a business. And today's episode is being brought to you by Business Success Consulting Group, where we create, document, optimize, and implement processes and procedures so businesses can grow and thrive. And today's guest is a recurring guest, Brooke Lively. Hi, Brooke.
Hi, Addie. Thank you for having me on again.
Yes, and again, and you're very, very welcome. So for our listeners, we had another 2 episodes which were great, and I am going to include those episodes in the show notes. So you definitely want to listen to them so you can learn more about Brooke, because today we're going to concentrate specifically on what she's doing now and the newest book in a series of 7 books that came out recently, and we're going to talk about that. But Brooke, let me give a little bit more of a context for those listeners that haven't listened to our previous episodes. So you help law firms, leaders get more of what they want from their business: clarity, traction, and profitable growth. And you are a serial entrepreneur with an MBA, an elite CFA, and 2 decades in the legal industry. You bring sharp financial insight and a refreshingly human approach to make scaling a legal practice feel like hitting the easy button, right? Easy.
That's my goal.
Yes, and also more fulfilling. You are also an international best-selling author with 7 books total, 5 written for law firms, including 2 bestsellers. And now it is your 7th work, Scaling Law, which focuses on helping firms implement EOS. So This is pretty impressive resume here. And you're absolutely amazing. What you accomplish in a short amount of time is what people basically want to accomplish over a lifetime. So that's definitely well done.
I think it's shiny object syndrome, and having the systems built that allow you to go chase the shiny objects.
Yeah, that's right. Because you're a shiny object, you can be all over the place, but you definitely accomplish and get things done.
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about the new book, Scaling Law, what it is about.
So it's published by EOS, by the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it's the first book that they have published about how to implement, or what it's like to implement EOS in a law firm. And, I have heard for years, as you read my bio, I've been in the legal industry for flipping ever. And so many attorneys come up to me and say, oh, I hear about EOS and all my clients say it's so great, but it doesn't work for law firms. And I'm like, yes, it does. And so I really wanted to write a book, and luckily EOS was like, we are totally on board with that. So much so that we'll publish it.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So now, many of our listeners are not lawyers, so they're probably asking themselves, why am I listening? Well, I'll tell you why, is because there's a lot of things to learn of how to adapt a certain system to a certain industry. Because I'm curious to know why law firms think that the system that works for other businesses is not going to work for their business. Like, why do they think it's so unique?
Because they think they're special little snowflakes.
Okay. So basically you're saying, you know what, you're not unique. You just have to apply it as a business and it will work.
It is amazing. Lawyers are taught that they practice. You practice law. And they think of their business as a practice and not as a business. And making that change is really a shift in thinking. And I think it's a shift for anyone in any business. And it's that moment where you go from doing something you're passionate about that might be really profitable to actually shifting into creating a company that has legacy, has the ability to run without you, really is a true business. And it is usually because you have systems in place and it is
That's
no longer sitting on the owner.
that's right. That's right. So do you encounter that many law firms do not have systems in place and it is falling on the owner? Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh, good
know.
Lord. And the funniest is when you've got, I mean, it's a law firm, so there could be 2 and 3 owners. I tend to work with smaller firms. And I had a conversation recently with a firm, and I had multiple owners on the phone. And one was like, well, I send out this contract when a new client hires us. And the other one's like, well, I send out this one. And a third one's like, yeah, I usually send it out. I don't know which one I use. And I'm like, oh my God. And they all of a sudden, it was like this moment of clarity for them. No one was working with the same client contract.
Right.
I'm like, guys. And then I find out that they're actually editing and sending out the contracts themselves. I'm like, WTF? You all have paralegals, you've got legal assistants, you've got all kinds of help. That is something that can be systematized. That is something that you hit a button somewhere and it automatically goes out, or you simply tell a central person and it happens. Like, you guys don't have to reinvent the wheel every time.
Right. Right. Why do you think that thought process is there in terms of like, yeah, I have to do everything? Where is it coming from?
I think I think for most owners of most businesses, but especially for attorneys, if I don't do it, it's not going to be done right. If and I think it really comes from the fact that, and Addie, you're going to have to raise your hand with me because I know you've done it too, but we have all thought we have delegated things to people and we haven't delegated.
Mhm.
All we have done is abdicate. If you give somebody a an assignment and you don't tell them why and you don't tell them what outcome you want and you don't give them the tools to do it, it's going to fail, right? They're,
It is. I mean, I can tell you that when I tell somebody to do something or ask somebody to do something on my team, and then it's not being done the way I want it to be done, I realize that I look at it, because now I know, I want to take the full responsibility. And I look at it and I go like, you know what? It wasn't clear enough, or I didn't give the instructions, or they did it according to what they could interpret from what I was saying. And
yeah.
I see it with entrepreneurs, and I can see that in a law firm where, well, I told them to do that, but what exactly did you say? Oh, that person is not smart enough, but it's not. You have to, if you hire correctly, you hire intelligent people, you hire people that can work. You are setting them up for failure if you don't give them the systems. I totally agree with you.
Well, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. I can't delegate to anybody because they can't get it done. They can't do it right. It won't be, so you create a situation where you delegate something to somebody without giving them the tools they need. They screw it up. Shocker, because you only gave them about, 1/10 of the information they really needed. It comes back to you. You're like, well, I knew they were going to screw it up. And look, they screwed it up. So therefore, I have to keep everything.
Right.
And when you're an attorney, you get to add on if it's not done right, I could lose my law license. If it's
That's
not
right.
done right, I could be sued. So it just ratchets it up a little bit higher than if you are
But it's true for others, like, financial advisors have the same thing. I mean, I
Mhm.
heard him say that, I'm going to lose my license because it's not in compliance. So I have to make sure it's in compliance. So a contractor can say that because, yeah, I'm then not going to get paid. I mean, we all can say it, I can say it, if it's not being done right, then the clients are going to leave us.
Yeah,
It's that threat that you feel as a business owner if you don't have enough confidence on how to delegate. And you can say the same thing, Brooke. You can say, well, to
absolutely.
your assistant, if you don't schedule correctly or if you don't communicate correctly to the clients, they're going to get disappointed and leave me. I mean, everybody can have that particular mindset. They shouldn't, but you could adapt it to anyone. But I understand how it can work also in the law firm, and it can be like a threat.
Well, and so that's the thing. When you think about EOS really is a system, right? It is a framework on which to build your business. It looks at 6 different parts of your business. It doesn't matter if you're a law firm, a marketing agency, a contractor, an HVAC person. It doesn't matter what you do. Um, you need a vision. You have to know where you're going with your company, and you've got to communicate that to your whole team so that they
Hmm.
know where they're going.
Right.
You've got to have the right people in the right seats. And this is a Jim Collins thing. Um, do you have people that are a culture match to your company? And as you said, are you hiring people who are intelligent? Are you hiring people who, in EOS, we ask if they GWC the job? Do they get it? Because sometimes people don't actually get, like, really, they don't really get the job. Do they want it? Very often we promote people to jobs they don't want. They want the paycheck, they want the title, but they don't want the actual job. And do they have the capacity to do it? Sometimes they just don't have the skill set, and we got to face up to that.
Right. But
And
one thing is, we talked about systems at the beginning, and there is a thought out there, and I'm curious to hear what you have to say, that you have to already hire with that knowledge, experience, skills. But on the other hand, sometimes what I find is that if you have good training, it's easier to hire for culture, like a culture fit. If they have the attitude, if they have your core values, if somebody that you consider they have potential and they can learn. So it's not like they have the ability to learn. So if you have the correct training of how you want to do it, you will be able to then really have a good culture with good people. I mean, I had it we were working with a client that the property management company. And for years, I mean, they ran on EOS as well. They came to us from an EOS implementer. And for years, he was hiring for experience because he felt like he cannot teach the complexity of being a property management for some kind of like the HOA, the homeowner
that hard?
association. It was because they had, it's basically they had all these laws and all these things, and he
Mm,
didn't have the time to train them. So he couldn't just bring somebody that had like zero experience. They wanted somebody that knew how to run the meetings, how to write the meeting
yeah.
notes, the meeting, how to do this and compliance and this and all of those things. So once he had it all documented, we documented for them. He goes, "Oh wow, now I can actually hire for culture because I can train everyone to do it the same way and I'm willing to train them." So,
Yeah.
yeah,
And, I worked for the Ritz-Carlton for a while. And the Ritz-Carlton says we hire for attitude. They hire for culture. They hire for core values fit. They say we can teach you to make a bed, to serve a meal, to check in a guest. We cannot teach you to want to help someone.
that is so true. Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
mean, I think what it is, it's also like if you have the inclination to help, you will want to help more when you are trained and know what to do, because sometimes the resistance to help or to do more is because we just not certain, don't know, and don't know what is expected from us. So if you hire already with a willingness to help, then everything else can be developed.
yes. But I want to go back to the guy that you talked about
Yeah.
earlier, who, because I'm going to say something, Addie, it might be a little, you might yell at me. Are you going to yell at me?
I'm not gonna yell at you, Brooke. I love our conversations because we can just say things and then we get to the agreement. Go ahead, say something.
So, Vern Harnish,
Mhm.
founder of EO, wrote the book Scaling Up.
I actually have a podcast with him, so those I'm gonna include it in the show notes as well, so people
Uh,
can know who he is.
all right.
Okay.
So, you talk to Vern. One of the things Vern will say, and he has said to me, is don't train people. Let bigger companies train people. Let, Apple, IBM, Texaco, let those big companies train because they have the systems,
Hmm.
the bandwidth, and the dollars to train. So if you don't have those systems and you're a smaller company, hiring someone that you have to train is a huge drain on your resources because it slows everybody down. So if you don't have a training system, you end up in that situation that that guy was in where he kept hiring these people and trying to train them. And it was a disaster because not only was he doing his job,
Right.
but he was doing 2/3 or 3/4 of that new person's job too. And that's not sustainable.
Now, that's when you have to find according to the circumstances. So I think it's a brilliant advice for sure. However, when you can't find if in your field you want somebody to do exactly what you want them to do, you want to hire for attitudes. I think it's a combination of both. I mean, if
It
you
is.
depends on how much the training takes. Of course, they have to have the aptitude for it, or maybe have some kind of experience in related fields. It's interesting you're saying that because I think when I help my clients, I'm looking for people that actually produce something similar so they can show that they can get results. So even
Mhm.
then, applying what you just said, it works because somebody else trained them already. So I'm not saying you hire somebody, although I did that as well, I've done that as well, and it worked great, getting somebody just out of school and they have the willingness, depends on what position. But if you get somebody that already had, like, let's say they were the VP of marketing in a company, so they might not know exactly what you are doing, and you will still need to train them on what you are doing, but they already have the training
But
of
they get
thinking that
marketing.
way and how to do it. And they've got it's all about results. If a person shows that they have gotten results, then I'm more willing to hire them because they have products. If they don't and they just talk and say, I can do this and I can do that, then it's also can be very draining because you are spending a lot of time training, but then there are no results.
So I think it's really when you're looking at hiring, you need to self-evaluate of do I have the time and bandwidth to train someone who does not know this? Do I have the system that will train them?
Right.
Do I need to build the system?
Yep. I mean, that's exactly
Or
right.
am I out of bandwidth? I don't have the time, the money, the bandwidth to train or build a system. I'm going to have to hire someone who already knows how to do this.
That's exactly right. But then
Will cost you more,
mhm,
but ultimately will be more profitable
that's right.
than hiring someone who doesn't know how to do it when you don't have the bandwidth, the training, you're setting
I
yourself up
agree.
for failure.
You are. And what I would add to that, the next thing in the cycle here is that if you hire somebody like that, then prepare for the future because otherwise it will be a catch-22 because you would never have the time to create the systems. So yeah, you were not going to have the bandwidth yourself and you shouldn't. One time I was working with a CPA and we calculated how much money is actually spent if the person who was the owner of the company and even the CPAs under him spend the time to train because it's not just the hourly rate that they charge, it's also the potential of what they can do during that time because they can bring more business. I mean, he was the rainmaker, etc. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars because that's what you also you lose
Mhm.
if you don't go out there. So you hire, as you said, but then spend the time, buy yourself the bandwidth to create the systems that will train the newest, that will train in the future, because otherwise you're going to be in that same catch
You're going to be in that,
22.
yeah, you're going to be in that locked in that same circle
Mm-hmm.
and not
Yeah.
able to get out.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a very good point. That's an amazing, amazing point. So thank you, Brooke. You see, I didn't yell at you. I totally agree with
You
you. I
did not
think
yell
it's
at me.
because I do think that, it's not dogmatic. You can't have like one thing that fits all. You have to
Oh,
assess the situation you're in and what is right for you. But as you said, you have to have the vision. So part of the vision is to have systems in your business. Part of the vision is to be able to get out of that situation that you don't like, that basically forces you to go one direction because the other one is not
yeah.
sustainable.
How are we going to work our way out? So, all right, so let's go back to EOS. EOS has these 6 things. So the first one is vision, the second one is people, the third one is data. And, Addie, I don't know about you, but almost every business owner I know has made a lot of decisions based on gut instinct. And then you go home at night and you're eating dinner with your family and you're like, oh my God, was that the right thing? Should I have done that? And then you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're like, no, maybe I should. I'm going to go to the office tomorrow. I'm going to undo that. We're going to do it the other way. And then, you come into the office at 8 and you're like, wait a minute, in the past 5 hours, I've rethought that. We're not going to undo. I mean, you just keep making that decision over and over and over again. Um, so we need data because data allows you to make a decision once and be confident in it. It also allows your people to make decisions and for you to be confident in them.
It's absolutely true. I mean, I just did it the past week. We did a strategic plan for the year in terms of marketing, and we analyzed the data like very thoroughly, like where the leads came
Mhm.
from, what are the biggest resources, what works, what doesn't work, but not, oh, I don't think this is working. No, show me the data. Show me what we got from here, what we
Right.
got from there. You gotta use data. And today with the AI and with all the
Just
data at our fingertips is like
feed it in there. And
exactly and
actually,
analyze it. Yeah.
it used to be that we didn't have enough data.
Now we have too
Now
much
we
data.
actually have too much data and we can't filter out the noise to see what we need.
Yeah. So we need to know how to evaluate.
Yeah, what to use and how to use it. So then the next thing, the fourth pillar of EOS is issues. What are those problems? We're always going to have problems. And if we're not digging down and solving the problem at the root, then all we're doing is treating symptoms and that problem's going to come back in a few weeks. So I was working with a client the other day and they had an employee that thought they were being really helpful that was going off and doing something that wasn't their job. And they're like, okay, that's the issue. I'm like, is that the issue? They're like, yeah. I'm like, really? Because issues come down to people problems or process problems, right?
Or both.
But it can be both. But we established that he was the right person in the right seat. He was a core values match. So they were like, I was like, it's a process problem. They're like, well, how is that a process problem? I'm like, does he know what his job is? They're like, oh, yeah. No, I don't think we've ever told him exactly where his job stops and another person's job starts. I'm like, does he know to whom he reports? Because he kept going to this random person and doing stuff. Like, he doesn't, there's no accountability chart that tells him who he should be taking direction from. And there's no accountability chart that tells him who's in charge of what it is that he's trying to do to be helpful. So he doesn't know. I was like, guys, this was a major process failure. And they were like, oh my gosh, because before they thought we need to tell this employee to stop doing this. I'm like, uh-huh. And in 3 weeks, you're going to have another employee that's going to do something similar.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to treat that symptom and that symptom. So we've got to learn how to fix the problem structurally. And so we went through and we're like, okay, we need to sit down with each employee. We need to go over how, these are the 5 roles that I expect you to do. These are the 5 results that I want from you. This is who you answer to. This is who has responsibility for everything in the company so you can see it. And they were like, and so now they're doing that. And in 3 months, we're going to work on how basically to be a good boss, how to LMA, how to lead, manage, and hold your people accountable. And so they're not going to have this problem again because we solved it at the root.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
the fifth pillar is process. And I started off by saying that EOS is a system. And process underpins all of it. If you don't have the process, EOS says we need to get your core processes identified, documented, and followed by all. That means everybody doing it the same way every time. If you don't have a process, you have employees trying to be helpful, making a mess, right?
That's right.
Because they had not implemented the process of flipping onboarding an employee well.
That's right. That's exactly right.
What are those processes and what are we putting in place? Because without the processes, those are the structure. That's how you build your company. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you dig ditches, practice law, or make widgets. Without the process, we're all going to hell in a handbasket.
Amen to that. You know how much I love that, and that's what we do.
And then the last one is traction. And traction really is all about accountability. It's about taking that vision that you've communicated to everybody and pulling it down to the ground and executing on it. And, making sure that people are doing the things that they said they were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it pulls little bits from everywhere. It's having the right people in the right seats, using data to make sure that they're doing their job, following the processes so it gets done the right way, the first way, and solving all the problems so that they can move forward. And when you have all of that starting to work together, and I'm not saying work perfectly, no one's ever going to be perfect. We can just get it 80% of the time. You will kick everybody else's tuchus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Completely. We have to have organization. We have to have structure 100%. Brooke, this is amazing. I mean, you're definitely super knowledgeable, as I said in the beginning, and you know how to get things done and get others get things done, which is incredible. So if people want to know more about you, reach out to you, read your books, where should they go?
I think the best place to go is scalinglaw.com.
Okay, what if you're a business owner that want to know more and they're not lawyers? They should also read that book because I think it does apply.
It really does. It's so interesting. I think that everything I talk about in the book is so universal. I talk a lot about what it's like to implement and how people feel about it and the problems they ran into. Doesn't matter what you do, you have those same emotions, you have those same problems.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Absolutely. Brooke, amazing. Thank you so much for another interview. I have a feeling that you are going to be on this podcast again because we have so much fun discussing things and talking about things and showing how things can get done. So again, thank you for being a recurring guest and such a wonderful guest.
Well, thank you for having me, Addie. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the System Simplified podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.